Welcome back to Kiesel News, everybody. The first thing that I want to mention today is a teenage YouTuber being able to turn his short film that was originally a YouTube video into a full-blown feature film. Now, I've never heard of this YouTuber before, and he seems relatively small time, so I don't know how he managed to do this, especially since the only YouTubers who have ever gotten movies are Markiplier with Iron Lung, Logan Paul, fucking Fred, Smosh almost. You had to be huge in order to accomplish this. Now, after doing further research, I saw that his short film is no longer on YouTube, but it had 4.4 million views, so it certainly went viral. So I guess that could be big enough to get attention, right? And it's still just cool to see someone who just graduated high school be able to do something this cool. And it gives me hope that I'll be able to turn my short stories and ideas into films eventually. If you guys like it, subscribe. No, I'm joking. I mean, it would be nice if you guys subscribe, but, Earlier in the week, I talked about a Game of Thrones MMO being in development by Nexon, who makes entirely shooters, it seems like. Now, the game is going to be set between seasons 4 and 5, which I believe don't have much of a gap whatsoever. So, what are they going to fill in here? It doesn't have a timeline like Star Wars, where there's like 20 years between movies, so you can easily have a whole bunch of content to fill in the gaps. And especially if you're going the MMO angle, where the characters should be your own and original, you're telling basically an original story anyway, so I don't see why they wouldn't just set it before or after the show at some point, especially with all the shows that are supposed to be set before or after getting postponed or canceled. Kindergarten 3 announcement may be imminent, everybody. Kindergarten is one of my favorite games of all time. I originally found it through Cub Scouts, who you can see in the screenshot, and I originally found this tweet from Cub Scouts Twitter, and I was blown away, because I thought for sure that we weren't going to get a third one. I've been hoping ever since 2019 when the second one released, but the gap between the first two wasn't that long, so I assumed the third was dead in the water. If we do get a third game, it'll likely feature Wednesdays as the primary day, but I do think it would be interesting to see a game where the kindergarten cast is aged up a little bit. Nothing drastic, only maybe a couple of years, because there's really no need to do a time skip to middle school or high school when anything that could happen in the elementary school in this universe is far worse. It'll also be fascinating to see if they go with the true endings of the previous games where everybody dies in the end, and we'll truly get a whole original cast aside from your protagonist and Nugget. And then maybe there could be a secret ending where everybody who died comes back or something. And you have to fight the Monstermon card demons. Next up, Level 5, the company behind Yokai Watch and Professor Layton, is officially hiring new members for a localization team. So this is fully insinuating that they are in fact coming back to the West fully. So their new game, Ghostcraft, that's very similar to Yokai Watch and may even be in the same universe, does have very high chance to come to the West. I doubt we'll ever get a Yokai Watch 4 official English version, but there's now a mod that's out where you can play it in English if you want to go check it out. I'm just glad to see Level 5 making a comeback, and I hope that they can actually do well this time, getting over the Pokemon clone allegations. I'm sure it should actually be easier for them to do so, especially if Ghostcraft is different enough from Yokai Watch, and also people were very receptive of Power World overall, and that is way more of a copy of Pokemon than Yokai Watch ever was in terms of the designs. So I think level 5 should do alright. Next up, to celebrate Up's, no pun intended, 15-year anniversary, Airbnb is launching an Up house that actually floats. So you can go up in an Up themed house. Okay, I'll fucking stop with the puns. But I think that this is a very good way of celebrating the film's 15th anniversary. And I'm honestly surprised that Disney hasn't done more to celebrate it. I mean, we got that short film, Carl's Date or whatever, but with all the sequels coming out, I'm surprised Disney didn't capitalize on the 15th anniversary to release an Up 2. Sure, it wouldn't really make sense, but neither does a Toy Story 5 really, so what's off the table? Next, Ivana Sakno, who plays Shin Hati in the Ahsoka series, has been cast in Megan. Now, I don't care about Megan whatsoever. It's just another horror franchise, right? But I am glad to see this actress get more work, especially with her role in Ahsoka Season 2 being in limbo, I would say. Because it would feel kind of odd if they didn't end up recasting Balin and they wrote him out, but they still kept Shin Hati in. Although they did break off in the final, so Shin can show up on her own, thankfully. But it's still nice to see her get more work in the meantime, because who knows when Ahsoka Season 2 is gonna come out. For all we know, it could come out fucking 2028. As every Star Wars project has to be immensely delayed at some point. Speaking of projects that should be delayed, and not even just delayed but fucking cancelled, we have Velma getting renewed for a third season. Right when Scooby-Doo was finally getting on the right track with the announcement of that new series, with involvement from one of the U creators, its reputation is just gonna get even worse now. I am surprised to see a third season renewal though, because I don't even think a lot of people hate watched season 2. I didn't hear basically anything about it throughout its runtime. I saw a couple tweets, that was about it. Unfortunately, I can't even blame the studios for renewing it this time, as I've always been one to say that studios don't know what to renew, or greenlight for that matter, as we've seen with the Bob Odenkirk and David Cross project that isn't going to see the light of day. Because you have to put the blame solely on the view numbers, because even if season 2 didn't get hate watched nearly as much as season 1 did, which it definitely has to be the case, right? The success of season 1 alone probably carried it to season 3. Next up, you're now going to have a certain limit on the number of times that you can click show lyrics on Spotify unless you buy Spotify Premium. This is obviously a shitty thing, but one thing that I haven't saw people mention is how it's shitty for deaf people. I assume the main way that a lot of deaf people engage with music is through reading the lyrics, much like how they would read the captions on a TV program or YouTube video. Now imagine the uproar if TV captions just went away entirely. It'd be fucking terrible. So I'm glad that Spotify is facing backlash for this, as it may cause them to reverse the decision. What was even the motivation behind this business-wise, as no one's going to pay for premium just to see the lyrics, as you can just look up the lyrics elsewhere online anyway, so you're just encouraging them to use your platform less. Lastly, I just wanted to add on a quick message regarding more Take-Two layoffs. Now, everyone thinks of Rockstar when they think of Take-Two. So everyone's probably thinking, oh, 70 people that aren't going to be able to work on GTA 6. this is going to affect development, right? Well, that's what I thought when I heard it as well. But my friend made me aware that the developers of a smaller but still big game, Kerbal Space Program 2, is also owned by Take-Two, and they're located in Seattle. And members of the development team have posted how they've gotten laid off. So it seems likely that Kerbal Space Program 2 is going to be either heavily delayed or canceled. What a disrespectful way to do so, too, as I'm sure most people didn't even know that Kerbal Space Program 2 and their developers were the ones even affected by this Take-Two layoff. You could have at least mentioned them by name to give them a little publicity if they're going to take the game into an indie state.